Welcome, everybody, to the Southern Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. It's wonderful to have you with us. We have a lot of special stuff planned for you today. We have Congressman Keith Self from Texas joining us to talk about the threat of a looming shutdown coming soon to a government office near you. Not really. Most of the government, the essential parts of the government will keep running, but Congressman Self has the inside scoop for us, so stay tuned for that. We also have young man named Eric Meter with the Privacy Academy to break down how AI and social media tried to convince him to kill himself. It sounds too crazy to be true. You are going to be blown away when you hear it. We also have regular on the program, John Richardson with Operation World Without Cancer. Folks, the turbo cancer is absolutely out of control. You might have seen the press conference with Donald Trump and Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, or you might not have because the media just focused on the Tylenol element. Our friend Richardson will break it all down for us and much more. On the news front, folks, Germany is totally out of control. We've got some huge news there about the Islamization of Germany. You can no longer criticize or even point out the facts involving this. More than half of their new police recruits are not even German. They can't even speak proper German. They are headed for disaster, and we are not far behind if we don't get serious about this. But first, a word from the Word. This comes out of 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 13 through 17. The Bible reads, "Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to emperor as supreme or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor or the king." And again, folks, that's a job description, right? What is the job description of emperors and governors? It is to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do well. They're not doing that. They're not fulfilling their divine mandate as given by the one who holds all authority in heaven and on earth. So we need to remind them that is their job. Their job is not to educate people's children. Their job is not to give you free health care. Their job is not to rob your neighbor so you can have more stuff. Their job is to punish evildoers. God already told us who are evildoers: murderers, rapists, thieves, enslavers, etc. So real simple formula there, folks. I do want to encourage you also, before we get started on the news today, go check out our friends at Victory Nutrition International, folks. They have a proprietary technology that allows your body to absorb 100% of the nutrients and the minerals that you are trying to get. Nobody else has this. It's really good stuff. And one of the ones that I like so much is this Protovite Vitality. It helps you with your metabolism. It's a tasty powder that supports and supercharges your vital systems for optimal health. It's got really great ingredients in it. You'll notice it's got all the minerals and vitamins you could need: zinc and magnesium and selenium and copper, which, as you know, is critical, and a whole lot more. So go check it out. They've got 6 products there. If you go to vni.life/Newman, vni.life/Newman, and use that promo code Newman20 at checkout, you're going to get 20% off your order. So go check it out, vni.life/Newman, vni.life/Newman. And you'll get 20% off when you check out. It's great stuff. I'm using it literally every day now, and I love it. It's just great stuff. Never felt better. So let's get right into the news, folks. A lot going on. I want to start off with the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth. He just convened a huge group of generals and admirals and top-ranking military officials at Quantico and said some really important stuff to them. Frankly, we've needed to say this for a long time. Check it out.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that.
Wow. Yeah, kind of important, right? He had much more to say. Let's continue.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
Yeah, folks. Kind of important for our warfighters to be in shape, you would hope, right? You don't look around at the Russian military or the Chinese military and see a bunch of out-of-shape, overweight individuals. And there's a reason for that. So kudos, Secretary Hegseth. Now, he also had some thoughts on women in the service. Let's check that out.
This, and I want to be very clear about this, this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result. So be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm not a big fan of having women in combat at all. I can't imagine why a nation of men would choose to send out wives and sisters and daughters to die when we are perfectly capable of doing that. But, I guess it's the woke modern era, and even the anti-woke have to be a little bit woke. But he went on to say that if you don't like it, you can leave.
But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. We need you locked in on the M, not the D, the E, or the I, not the DEI or the DIE of dime. By that I mean the M, military, of the instruments of national power.
There you go, folks. And Trump had his own comments as well. Let's roll that real quick.
Defending the homeland is the military's first and most important priority. That's what it is. Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly.
Joining us now to discuss all of that and more is Andrew Muller, Chief of Operations here at Liberty Sentinel Media, also a contributor at the New American Magazine. Andrew, thanks for joining us. What do you make of Secretary Hegseth's comments?
It's remarkable. It's common sense, but it is refreshing because we're living in a time of madness and of lack of common sense. It's not common anymore. So for Pete Hegseth to come out and say this is significant, and this isn't anything new. This is really what George Washington and our founding fathers believed should be the case, right? That the military is not a foreign interventionist outfit. It doesn't exist to participate in endless wars. And when it does engage in war that directly impacts the lives of our citizens in our homeland, it has to be strong and it has to be mighty and it has to be led by men with courage. And it was actually Washington who said, quote, overgrown military establishments are under any form of government inauspicious to liberty and are to be regarded as particularly hostile to Republican liberty. And I think that Pete Hegseth today spoke to that overgrown military establishment, talking about DEI, the climate cult, the lack of meritocracy. And he spoke truth to that. And we're getting back on track. So this is tremendous. I'm glad it happened. But we need to continue this so that moving forward, if once Trump's done and he exits stage left, we don't have some other radical come in and redo the military and make it woke again. So this is a great step, but now we have to keep it.
Yeah, amen. Folks, this is not a time for our military to be messing around with climate change and tutus and dog masks. We literally have hostile foreign governments that are preparing to kill us. We have a fifth column within our country that is preparing to help them, and now would be a really good time for our military to take this seriously. So I am very thankful for Secretary Hegseth and for the president for taking these threats seriously and trying to refocus the military on the things for which the military was created, namely to defend our country from enemies that would like to get rid of us. Turning to another subject now, the U.S. State Department just announced that it's going to be revoking the visa of Colombian President Gustavo Petro after he went out in the streets of New York and told American soldiers to disobey orders. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. This is the kind of craziness that these people do. That's one of the reasons we need to remove the UN headquarters from our soil and stop the propping up of radical left-wing governments. But let's listen to this. Crazy.
The mandate of the United Nations.
Las naciones del mundo entonces aportarán hombres y mujeres entrenados y armados para configurar ese gran ejército.
The people and the nation should be involved to create this great army.
Tiene que ser más grande que el de los Estados Unidos. Por eso, desde aquí, desde Nueva York, le pido a todos los soldados del ejército de los Estados Unidos no apuntar contra la humanidad sus fusiles.
Then I ask from New York, I ask to all the soldiers of the USA Army, don't put your hands against the people, not against the humanity.
Desobedezcan la orden de Trump. Obedezcan la orden de...
Literally says, disobey the orders of Donald Trump, obey the orders of humanity, which presumably means the United Abominations. I mean, this is so outrageous. This would be outrageous if he said it in his own country. To come to our country and urge our troops to disobey orders is a whole nother level of crazy. And folks, I grew up in Latin America. I'll tell you what, Colombia was the last real man standing against the communist takeover of the region, and it has officially fallen into the hands of the radical totalitarian left. The FARC, the Marxist terrorist organization that worked with Fidel Castro and Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Brazil to set up the Foro de Sao Paulo, they have taken over now virtually the entire region with a handful of exceptions. Very, very bad news. I want to move over to what's happening on the immigration front. So over in Japan, Prime Minister just announced that he's going to have to step down as the leader of his party and the government because, of course, people are upset with his African hometown program where they were going to basically import enormous numbers of Africans under the guise of a labor shortage. Japanese are not too excited about inviting huge numbers of immigrants into their country. In fact, they're very anti-immigration, and they just learned the hard way that that's not going to fly with voters. And I want to talk a little bit about Germany now, too. There's a whole bunch of things we've been saving to share with you guys, folks. I mentioned this at the beginning. Over half of the new police recruits in Berlin are actually in need of German language training. That's according to the government itself. 55% of their new police recruits do not meet German language standards to be police. That means, obviously, they are foreigners. That means, obviously, they were not born or raised in Germany. Folks, let that sink in. Okay, the German people in their own capital are going to be policed soon by a majority police force made up of foreigners. What could possibly go wrong? Now, we have a warning about this, what Germany might look like in 2050. The deputy head of the German police union, his name is Emanuel Ostermann, just published a report from his book on X warning about the effects of mass migration. He described Arab clans dominating big cities. He described Sharia law, child marriage, grooming gangs, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so, of course, the European Union ordered social media companies to censor him so that Germans could not hear this, right? Now, this is a leading law enforcement official in Germany, is not allowed to speak publicly about what he sees coming. Then we have Germany seeing a mass exodus of its own citizens. According to Destatis, which tracks these numbers, more than 93 Germans left Germany in the first 4 months of 2025, compared with 80,000 over the same period in 2024. 83,000 in 2023. So we've got a big increase now. Far more Germans leaving than coming home, and far more immigrants pouring into Germany. From January to April, they got 427,246 non-Germans moving into Germany, folks. So Germans are leaving, non-Germans are moving in. This is not going to end well for anyone, I'm telling you. Bad news. And they want to do that right here in the United States as well. We got Trump in office for another 3.5 years, but they will be back. They're obsessed with this, folks. There's a reason why, and we've talked about it. We got to go to break because we've got some very special guests, including Congressman Keith Self from Texas, coming up in just a moment to break down the latest on the shutdown news. Stay with us. Before we go, I do want to encourage you to check out our friends over at Genesis Gold. You can go to goldwithalexnewman.com, goldwithalexnewman.com. They will help walk you through any questions you might have about how to invest or position part of your portfolio in precious metals as we see continually higher and higher prices. Now would be a good time to give them a call. Get over to goldwithalexnewman.com and stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. Thanks so much for being with us. Now, you probably heard there's a big fight going on Capitol Hill. Are we going to shut down the government, or a small part of the government, the non-essential parts of the government? Why do we even have non-essential parts of the government? I don't know. But yeah, it's going on right now as we speak. Democrats want Republicans to do their bidding and fund all of the Democrat programs, open borders, mass migration, you name it. Democrats want it, and they're threatening to block this and shut down the government. Well, joining us now to discuss all of this and much more is Congressman Keith Self. He was born in a military hospital during his father's service in the U.S. Army. He went to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where he started his 25-year career of service to our country. He has served all over the place. He was deployed to Grenada, to Bosnia, to Afghanistan, to Iraq, and he received multiple awards and honors and retired with the rank of lieutenant colonel. After retiring from the Army, he became county judge in Collin County in Texas and served several terms before retiring in 2018. And he now represents the great state of Texas and his district in the U.S. House of Representatives. They live in McKinney, Texas, and he serves on a whole bunch of committees, very active in various caucuses, including the Republican Study Committee, the Counterterrorism Caucus, the Border Security Caucus, the DOJ Caucus, and so much more. Congressman Self, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
You're great. You bet, Alex. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. So I want to start with the shutdown. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Are we headed for a shutdown? And do you think Republicans will give in to some of these Democrat demands to be able to keep the whole government up and running?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a shutdown because the Democrats continue to insist that we fund illegal immigrant health care, and they want to return the $1.5 trillion in spending that has been cut by this Congress. We've done our job. We've passed the clean CR. Now it's time for the Democrats in the Senate to do theirs.
So there's been talk about the 60 vote threshold. In fact, I've spoken with several people on the Hill who suggest it's probably time to go ahead and get rid of that. I know that's a controversial idea, and I know that's in the upper chamber. But the argument that I heard is just that the Democrats are using this to basically force Republicans to pass Democrat spending priorities and really create a Democrat spending bill. What are your thoughts on this 60 vote threshold? Should it be removed by Republicans, or will we just wait till Democrats do it?
Well, it's actually called a filibuster. I'm not sure why it's still called a filibuster, because filibuster means something else. But no, I don't think we ought to remove it because the Republicans tend to stick to the Constitution, to the rule of law. But if we removed it and made it a simple majority, the Democrats would run all over the Constitution as they are wont to do, as they often do. So no, I don't think we ought to remove the 60 vote limit.
So what's the way forward here? You just try to get some of the Democrats to compromise on this issue? Do you think that's feasible?
Well, I think they're going to have to because I think the president and the Senate are going to stand strong for what we have already passed. I think they've got a vote scheduled on Monday, later tonight, maybe. But it will be on the clean CR that the House has already passed. So I think the way forward is we need to find a negotiated settlement with the Democrats that does not include their outrageous, egregious demands.
Very good. Shifting gears a little bit, the Trump administration has done a lot through executive policy, through executive orders, and through regulatory changes. And I know you've got some bills in the House to try to codify at least some of that. I want to start with H.R. 4730, which would codify Executive Order 14253, that would, in the words of the bill, restore truth and sanity to American history. We know that there have been very deliberate efforts to distort American history, to try to demonize the United States, to try to make America seem like an irredeemable, horrible, racist, systemically racist place. Talk to us about your bill. Talk to us about this executive order and why you think it's important to move ahead on this.
Well, because history is one of the things that the left wants to tear down to fundamentally change America. You may remember that phrase. History, family, and faith are the three things that they're going to have to tear down if they're going to make the federal government autonomous and supreme over everything. So this bill would simply say you need to treat history as history is. Frankly, in Texas, we had an effort not many years ago to reimagine, reinterpret the Alamo. Can you imagine changing the Alamo story in Texas? It is absolutely fundamental to Texas. And that's happening all across America. Park Service has been instructed to do this under the Biden administration. This is absolutely crucial to remembering who we are, where we came from, and those values that America is built on.
When did this process start with trying to distort our history, and how bad is it now? I mean, you do see these men on the street interviews where children don't know anything about our Constitution. They don't know anything about our history. They don't know anything at all. How long has this been going on, and how bad is the problem?
Well, I think you've got to go back to when we took civics out of high schools. We haven't taught civics for years and years and years. So I would say that was probably part of the beginning. Then you go back to the Supreme Court decisions in the early 60s. That took prayer out of schools and things like that. That is where the change started. And I will go back to the early 60s. Not many people remember the late 60s, but we were in a very similar time in the late 60s where I thought we might lose our culture. So we can redeem this. We can pull this back from the brink.
Yeah, I certainly hope we can, because it's a lot on the line, as you know, Congressman. You've got another bill. It's kind of an obscure agency. We haven't heard as much about it in recent years, but the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is H.R. 814 to defund this organization. Why do you think it's important to defund this? What are some of the problems with this bureau?
Well, frankly, this is an unconstitutional bureau. It does not fall under the congressional funding, which is by the Constitution, the Article 1, we control the funding. And frankly, this organization is allowed to take unlimited funds directly from the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve is owned by the banks, of course, and so they are allowed to take their funding from the Federal Reserve with no congressional oversight. That is not constitutional. This entire organization, therefore, is unconstitutional. This bill would simply limit the amount of funds that they can take from the reserves. But frankly, there is a Supreme Court case, and I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will eventually rule this organization, at least bring it underneath congressional funding constraints and authority, if not declaring it unconstitutional.
Wow. Excellent. And that brings up a bigger issue with the Federal Reserve. We had another congressman on just recently who had multiple bills, Congressman Warren Davidson, to rein in the Federal Reserve. He expressed serious concerns about the lack of accountability, the lack of significant audits to know what's all going on there. Are you concerned about the Federal Reserve? I know Trump's been in a very public battle with the head of the Federal Reserve. What are your thoughts on this organization as an institution, and how might Congress step in to improve it or abolish it?
Well, it's got two mandates when it started with one. Full employment and the protection of the dollar are its two basic mandates today. I believe it needs to defend the dollar. It needs to defend our currency, because as the world's reserve currency, that's vitally important to the United States. Frankly, I think that the real problem is you see central banks around the world buying gold. They are hoarding gold because why? They don't think the full faith and trust of the United States government is worth much anymore. So they're stockpiling gold. So we are in effect going back worldwide, perhaps, to a gold standard rather than fiat-backed currency, which is what we have today. And the Federal Reserve is the one that tries to protect and should protect the value of the US dollar. And yet we're losing value every day. I think that's why central banks are buying gold.
Are you concerned, on that note, are you concerned about efforts by, for example, Communist China, the Russians, maybe the BRICS alliance, to build a rival financial state? As you mentioned, they are all, the central banks, they're stockpiling large quantities of gold, and they seem to be trying to build an alternate mechanism for settling payments across international borders. In fact, in some places, they're well underway. Are you concerned about that? Is that a deliberate attack on America, or just a natural response?
Oh, it is. No, it's a deliberate attack on the U.S. dollar. So they are trying to ruin the U.S. dollar as the worldwide reserve currency. That is their intent. But who is going to assume that if you invest in the Chinese money or Russian money, that you're ever going to get your money back? With the U.S. Treasuries, the U.S. Treasury bond is the foundation of international finance today. People buy our Treasury bonds, less so today, but traditionally they buy our bonds because they know they're going to get their money back. We have the rule of law backing up the U.S. dollar, the full faith and credit of the United States government. So if that ever fails, where are they going to go? Are they going to go to China? Do you trust the Chinese Communist Party to give you your money back? Do you trust Putin to give you your money back? Probably not. That's why they're investing in gold. That's why we need to defend the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency of the world.
Excellent. Shifting gears a little bit, you have another bill, and this is an issue that I know a lot of people in Texas are passionate about, a lot of Americans are passionate about. It's the H.R. 895, Ensuring Justice for Victims of Partial Birth Abortion Act. The fake media did not talk much about this horrific case, but just a few years ago, the bodies of some unborn children, victims of partial birth abortion, apparently were discovered. And your bill seeks to address that. Talk to us about it. Why is that important?
Well, because the partial birth abortion ban is not being enforced. That's the sad fact of life. In fact, the case that you talked about, the DC-5, these 3 unborn babies, one of which showed distinct signs of partial birth being torn apart, was found in a cardboard box on the street. And what happened? The FBI arrested the woman who found the box. No accountability for who had done these horrific acts, but they arrested the woman that found the box and tried to make an issue out of this. That is completely turned upside down. That is immoral. We need to protect our unborn, and if they are torn apart in a partial birth abortion, that is a horrific act that we need to enforce the laws of the United States and hold people accountable for doing those horrific acts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's such a sad story. What else could Congress be doing on this issue? I know the Supreme Court kind of kicked the issue back to the states pretty recently with their major decision overturning Roe versus Wade. But where should America go on this issue?
Well, all the Supreme Court did was return it to the states, so they have driven abortion underground. Now we can't even account abortions because abortion pills are sold through the mail over state lines. We have no idea how many young women are mistreating themselves, abusing themselves through the improper use of these pills, sometimes even dying. So all the Supreme Court did was return it to the states and drive it underground. So I think the federal government has got a part to play in this, and we need to make sure that we play that part going forward.
Yeah. Of course, our founders said one of the reasons for government was to protect the rights of people, and they said the right to life was chief among them. So you'd think that'd be pretty clear. I want to turn to another issue that a lot of people are thinking about at the moment, and that is the Donald Trump administration. They have done a lot through executive action, as we started with, on climate, on energy, on regulatory issues across the board. But some of those things were enshrined into law with the One Big Beautiful Bill, but a lot have not been. And we saw after the first administration, Joe Biden came in and literally day one just overturned huge amounts of the actions that President Trump took. What is Congress doing, or is Congress doing anything to codify some of these very significant changes that the president has tried to bring in? And how could the American people who want these policy changes get active in trying to get those enshrined into federal law?
Well, frankly, the House has voted on some 50 of these executive orders, but we're back to the Senate. Will they get through the Senate? That's the question. We've actually used the Congressional Review Act, the CRA, against some of the actions of the Biden administration. So we are working to do it. But again, the Senate is the speed bump here, is the obstacle to getting these through. But we are trying to codify as many as possible, because you're exactly right. If it stands as an executive order, it can be overturned with a stroke of a pen. God forbid if we have another progressive president like Biden in the future.
Yeah. So do you think some of that will get into this funding bill? I mean, we got the midterms coming up in 2026. Are you optimistic that some of those things actually will be codified into federal law?
No, we really need a Reconciliation 2 package in order to get a lot of those into law, because this is a clean bill. So this is not a policy bill. This is a funding bill. Primarily sticking to funding. So I believe that we would need a second reconciliation bill in order to get those into policy.
And are you optimistic that that's possible?
I am not. Discussions are being had. We will see what happens.
Wow, that's unfortunate. One of the issues that Trump has made a centerpiece of his administration is the so-called climate change. He called it the greatest con job in the history of humanity on the floor of the UN General Assembly the other day. I know Texas produces a lot of energy. I know Texas consumes a lot of energy. What are your thoughts on this UN climate agenda, if you will, to rein in carbon dioxide emissions and change over to green energy and so many other policies tied to this?
Well, it's a direct attack on the West, on our values, because China and India are the greatest polluters on the face of the earth. They are not touched by this. This is an attack on the West, the developed countries. We have done more to lower pollutants in the air than anyone around the world over the past 30 years, and China and India continue to pollute. So until you get everybody on board and everybody plays under the same rules, nothing is going to be done. Climate changes all the time. We know that it goes up and down naturally. The issue is that people think that we're causing all of it. Mankind cannot be causing all of it, because you have, look at the spate of volcanoes that have erupted, the earthquakes that we've had. Climate is changing. The question is, how much belongs to mankind? Frankly, I think the Arctic ice will tell you today, not much.
Amen. Now, you are on the Committee on Foreign Affairs, a very important committee in Congress, and it seems to me, in fact, I just did a big article on this, that Trump is recalibrating our relationship with a lot of the international partners of the United States government, at least from the past. So we're, of course, in the process of withdrawing from UNESCO, the UN's education agency. We're in the process of leaving the World Health Organization. As a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, what do you think about these institutions? Is Trump doing the right thing by withdrawing and reining in some of these international organizations?
Well, you've got to separate the organizations. NATO is still very important, and they're picking up their funding so that we can have a very strong NATO, a counterbalance to both Russia and China. The UN organizations, frankly, we've been funding a majority of their funds for years and years and years, and they've been anti-America, anti-Israel, anti-West for so long. So yes, absolutely, he is right to recalibrate our relationships with these organizations. We want to participate in organizations, but two things. We want people to fund their fair share, and two, we want them to be truly unbiased in their approach to the world. Because look, free markets, freedom, has done more for people around the world than anything else. And yet there are still people around the world that want to use our liberties, our freedoms against us, and that has got to stop. So I absolutely agree with President Trump as he recalibrates these relationships.
Excellent. And on this issue of the border, in his speech at the General Assembly, Trump said that the UN had been funding it. He called it a globalist assault on the borders of Western countries. I know you are part of the Border Security Caucus. This is a big issue for you. How concerned are you about the UN's role in the mass migration that Joe Biden facilitated a few years ago? And what does the United States do about it?
Well, President Trump has closed our border on the south. We didn't need new law. We didn't need new regulation. We simply needed a new president on the south. But today, we are also concerned about the migration that is being weaponized against Western Europe by Russia, bringing people out of Africa, out of global south, and putting them into across the border from Russia into Europe, and doing the same thing that was happening on our southern border. So today, immigration, illegal immigration, is being used as a weapon around the world, particularly in Europe today. So President Trump fixed our border. I think it's off the table as an issue. Now we've got to work on it in other areas. I chair the Europe subcommittee. I'm very concerned about what Russia is doing to Western Europe now with illegal immigration.
Fantastic. We're almost out of time, Congressman, but I do want to ask, you have an A ranking on the Freedom Index of the New American Magazine. I serve as senior editor there. Those rankings come from voting records as based on the U.S. Constitution. Constitutional voting record is an A. Unconstitutional voting record is F. And you've done very well on that. Talk to us about your view on the U.S. Constitution, your view as a congressman. How does that all fit together?
Well, as we approach our 250th anniversary as a nation, I go back to the founders. What a wise group of men, and frankly, some of the wives, spouses that are not talked about. Abigail Adams, for instance, who put this together, the Declaration of Independence, which is a spiritual document, the Constitution, which is our legal document. They put together a framework that is unrivaled around the world in terms of individual freedom, in terms of prosperity, in terms of peace. So I think we need to go back to that. We need to protect those values that we find in those two documents. And that's what I try to do every day here in Congress.
Well, we are grateful for that. Congressman Keith Self, it's been a real pleasure. Any final thoughts you want to share with the folks before we let you go?
I'm looking forward to the next few days of getting this government funded at a level that will make sense, that will increase the freedom of the Americans in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your service to our country in the military, and I hope we can talk to you soon.
You bet. Bye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break with a segment with our good friend, John Richardson. Folks, turbo cancers are exploding. You know it. I know it. We all know it. The government knows it. And a lot of people are feeling hopeless about it. Of course, we have a strong suspicion that these are tied to the infamous injections that we're not supposed to speak of. But our guest on the other side of this quick break has more for us. Stay tuned.
In 1776, a nation was born, Forged in the crucible of revolution, brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Life's just better with VNI. There's purpose, there's passion, and there's a renewed sense of inspiration and optimism with every day. After all, we were founded on the power of possibility. Nearly a decade ago, a team of world-class scientists, formulators, and industry makers brought together biology, chemistry, and technology and created something unique and life-changing, while infusing a new sense of health and hope into the world. With every product comes an empowering opportunity to take charge of our destiny. One where we feel rejuvenated and energized, and everything else around us feels lighter, brighter, and full of promise. Let's live victoriously, together.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Folks, we've been warning about AI and social media and the big tech totalitarians for a long time. Well, a young man, we partnered actually with Privacy Academy to bring some free privacy training to our loyal newsletter readers, and we got tons of good feedback, so we're very grateful for that. And then I was talking to Eric, he's the chief of operations there at Privacy Academy, and he shared with me a story about how he was radicalized as a child with AI and social media and other things. And I thought, wow, we have got to let people know about this because it's happening now. It's more sophisticated than it was even then. Eric Meter, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. Honor and pleasure. Eric, tell the folks out there the story that you shared with me about your experience with, I think it was TikTok, you said. Tell the folks what you shared with me.
Yep. So it was about 6 years ago. I'm 26 now. At the time, I was 20. And during my late teens, I went through some pretty hard times. I've been very lucky because I've had such wonderful parents. My mother and father are great people. Even with that, I still went down some pretty hard times. And basically what happened is, so I went to school for cooking. I was in culinary school, and I also was a line cook. And so I worked in a restaurant. So there's one day I was extra depressed. I went to school and then I went to work, and I just listened to this song on repeat all day, over and over and over and over. And it was this song called Rotten Apple by Alice in Chains. It's a pretty depressing song. And then I come home after work and I start scrolling on TikTok. And keep in mind, my father had told me in the past that TikTok is really bad. He's told me a little bit about surveillance because, like Alex said, he's with Privacy Academy. He's the founder. And then after this event is kind of what moved me into it. But basically, I'm scrolling. And then I see a meme on TikTok that says, when you're a line cook and you listen to Rotten Apple 24/7 and you want to kill yourself. And when I saw that, I was just completely stunned because, I was aware that For You pages existed. I was aware about algorithms, but that was too much to be a coincidence. I mean, that was so on the nose that it felt like it was created for me, specifically for me at the time. And that was kind of before AI was popular. So it was pretty shocking. And I didn't even really want to tell people about it because I thought they'd think that I was crazy. But what you can see with that is, okay, so I am a cook, and it can determine this because I go to a culinary school. I've got GPS on my phone. I go to a restaurant. I've got GPS on my phone. It sees the photos I take. It sees maybe that I'm depressed because of what I text my friends. And then obviously I'm listening to Spotify on my phone. It can tell I'm listening to Rotten Apple. So what it was able to do is it makes this profile on you. And it says, okay, Eric is a line cook. He's particularly depressed and he's listening to Rotten Apple all day. And so that's how they make this relatable content. And so basically what they do is they find all these pinpoints and then they throw something else in there. Mine was pretty direct. It was a slap in the face. A lot of the times it's a lot more discreet, but line cook, okay, 1 check. Rotten Apple all day, 2, wow, that's me, and you want to kill yourself. And I read that and I go, okay, I guess, yeah, I probably do. I am depressed. Maybe I should kill myself. And that's exactly what they're using for the youth. And that's a very extreme example, but this relatable content with the detailed profile is how they're able to do this manipulation. It's because it's not mass propaganda anymore. It's not newspapers, radios, TVs. It is detailed, profiled, individual manipulation, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen before.
That is horrific. And folks, we're seeing it now in so many different ways, right? The Instagrams, the TikToks, guiding your children into transgenderism, guiding them into eating disorders, and apparently now even guiding them into suicide. We've seen examples now of these AI programs literally talking young people into killing themselves. It's sick. Eric, we're almost out of time. What's the recommendation? I mean, if parents, grandparents are watching this or thinking that is terrifying. Do we just avoid these things altogether? Is there a way to use them responsibly? How do we navigate these very troubling times?
Yeah, I mean, the shortest answer I can say is if you could go to privacyacademy.com and sign up for a newsletter. I've made an entire course for parents about this. So if you sign up, I think next week is when we'll do the class. I got to see if I can get everything done in time, but that course will give parents everything that they need to know. So yeah, it'll be a free class where we announce everything and talk about it in more detail.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, appreciate what you guys are doing, Eric. Thank you for doing the free privacy training for our folks on our newsletter. We appreciate that very much, and we're gonna have to get you back soon. But thank you again, sir. Appreciate it. Tell your dad we said hello, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll be right back. That's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. Make sure to get over to our website, libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. You can sign up for our newsletter. Make sure you don't miss any of the critical information that we are putting out to keep you and your family happy, healthy, and free. It's all at libertysentinel.org. Thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate you so much, and we shall see you again soon. Until then, thank you for watching, and God bless you all.